Yo,
Let's
what's
chat.
good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Vitamin C's. As usual, I'm your boy Adam Taylor. As usual, I'm joined by my homie, my compadre, my co-host in crime, Mr. Tim Shields. What's popping, Tim?
Not much, man. So this is going to be something we're going to be trying to do a little bit more regularly, hopping on and doing some live streams. And we just wanted to kind of talk about the news that's broken out today. Noah Vonleh has been waived by the Celtics, and we're going to get a little bit of a breakdown of what are the ramifications of that. What does it mean for the Celtics moving forward? How does this impact the salary cap, and so on and so forth.
Van Layaway.
Vonleh away.
Have we got any other puns we can try?
Um, Nothing off the top of my head that I could think of. I think
No.
Vonleh, I feel bad because I really wanted him to work out, and we talked about it previously on a show before. But I always am a sucker for Massachusetts native coming home and playing for the home team. But he wasn't breaking the rotation. He got, usurped, I would say, probably by Blake Griffin and Luke Cornett. You got hopped like in the depth chart pretty quickly. Like you saw him a little bit at the beginning of the season, and then he just disappeared. He couldn't even get minutes in that garbage time against the Thunder the other day, which was a train wreck of a game. So I don't know. Maybe they've kind of been thinking about this move for a little while. You saw Brad Stevens looking at his phone that game. Looked like he was plotting and scheming.
Yeah, he was watching JD Davison highlights. That's what he was doing. Seriously though, like I said this on the last episode, I don't think Van Lay is terrible. I just think his fit was terrible, right? So him being waived, like the thing everybody needs to kind of keep in mind is this move from a salary standpoint. Like at the end of this week, I think it was his money became fully guaranteed, so they just got off of that. Like the trading, like for anybody that hasn't seen it yet, the trade is basically Noah Vonleh plus cash goes to the Spurs, and we don't know what Boston are getting back yet. It's going to be somewhat negligible. This was the Spurs doing Boston a solid more than Boston doing the Spurs a solid. And it was simply that I think if anyone wants to know what did the Celtics get back, the Celtics got back an open roster spot. That's huge. Some flexibility moving towards the trade deadline. The bigger question now becomes, is Justin Jackson next? Like, does Jackson go next? I don't see him having a fit here. I'd much rather have two open roster spots so then you can be a player in the buyout market. If there's anybody still available in free agency you're interested in, you can go and do that too. And then you can also have room that if you do make a trade, you can take back more players than what you're sending out. So I don't think that this move is the last one we see, just in terms of roster kind of shuffling. I think Jackson goes too. Now, I want to read this out from Keith Smith. He put this up on Celtics blog earlier today. On the accounting side, the Celtics' total tax bill, taxable salary plus penalties, was roughly 65 million pre-trade. The new total tax bill is approximately 58 million, meaning Boston saves around 7 million in actual taxes plus penalties. Vonleh was only worth 1.8 mil. So like you've saved a considerable amount of money for a guy that wasn't playing it. So it's a win-win, right? Like you're still a tax team. Even if you move on from Jackson, you're still a tax team. You're not getting under that, and that's fine. But you can reduce the outlay and then feel better about spending some more before that February 9 trade deadline.
Yeah, and I think you point out a good thing there with Jackson too, because I just think there's a possibility he's gone. Like right now,
Oh, Miss Jackson.
yeah. I mean, the Celtics are in this tough spot where, again, you are definitely going to be a tax-paying team. There's no moves outside of like moving significant salary that's going to change that. Nor if you're a contender, like should you even worry about the luxury tax or anything like that? But I think if the Celtics are trying to use any of those TPEs, this does change it a little bit because those guys at that point are just taking up roster spots. You would have to clear out spaces anyway if you were trying to swing any kind of trade, regardless of when it is, or if you're going to try and sign anybody, off of the buyout market or a free agent that you want to kick the tires on. But with, roughly a month until the trade deadline hits, you're going to have to start planning these things out. So this was just them getting ahead of it. It was a smart salary move. It sucks for Vonleh. I mean, you could have used that sort of money in order to cobble it together with other contracts to trade for someone, but you also still have a few trade exceptions that still haven't expired yet, that are much more than what you could cobble together with some of these minimum contracts between guys like Cornett, Jackson, Blake Griffin, like Vonleh. Like you could have cobbled all this money together. It still would have been roughly or a little bit under what you have with your biggest trade exception that's left, which I think is the Schroeder one.
I
Might be the
also think,
Hernan Gomez one, actually.
sorry,
No,
I
you're good.
also think you want to you don't want to kind of wait to make this deal, because if you're like, hey, we're gonna wait so we can put all these contracts together and then we can go and make a move. Well, now all of a sudden Vonleh and Jackson might be guaranteed, and it might be harder to move it, because the one thing you need to remember as well is the Spurs acquired him and they're waiving Vonleh straight off the
Like
bat.
right off the bat, yeah.
Right off the bat, and they're not really going to eat any money to do it. There'll be some form of like penalty, obviously, but it's a non-guaranteed contract that's getting moved. So, what you really want to hold out for a few more days, and then whoever you're trying to trade with, if they waive, there's a penalty there. It just made sense to do it. That's why I think it's going to happen with Jackson too. For me, it was all about creating that roster spot, and then like I said during a chat, I don't know if I was actually with you or not, but I said to somebody like, there's Cabangele, and I feel like he could give you pretty much what Vonleh was giving you, but on a two-way deal where you don't have to worry about the financial impacts. Do I think Cabangele is a great fit for the way this team are playing? Probably not, but right now they're not playing great anyway, so who cares if it's a good fit or not? I'm down. Like, I'm completely fine with however you want to do this in terms of, do you want to make a trade? Do you want to wait for the buyout? Because you still have that disabled player exception as well, right? And that doesn't expire until I think it's a few days after the buyout market closes. So you have that little bit of extra time. And then when you pro rata like vet mins and stuff, Boston are actually in a really good negotiating position because of that DPE. So they've got multiple options available for them. And all I know is I feel a little bit more comfortable after like a month of struggles, knowing that Brad's at least considering making moves and he's creating the flexibility to give himself the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and I think it also just acknowledges the fact that neither Vonleh or if Jackson ends up getting waived too, or traded rather, like neither of those guys were going to be able to help you get over the hump or were really giving you any kind of productive minutes. Like Jackson, especially, like at least Vonleh, like we saw him a little bit, right? Like a little bit towards the beginning of the season. They had to bring him in because of foul trouble. I remember in that game one against the 76ers. So you saw him in like little spurts here and there, but he quickly got phased out. They went out and they signed Blake Griffin for a reason. And he quickly, fell down those charts and he just hasn't been able to get any minutes at all. And that, I don't know how much of that speaks to how well the Celtics were playing when everyone was clicking and everyone was humming, all things were good, or how much of that just speaks to what Vonleh can give this team. But either way, like he was not factoring into that equation at all. And I don't think he was going to be a solution for any of the problems the Celtics are having. I just don't think that any of either Jackson or Vonleh were going to be able to fill any kind of void or fill any kind of role that would help the Celtics right now. Like I think that they need to go out and get another big or another wing, but I don't think that person was on the roster. Like no one else on the roster was going to step up to fill those needs.
No, and I mean, like I said, Vonleh is not a terrible player, but he's not a great fit. Cornette was playing well during that stretch as well. Is there somebody better out there? Sure. There's a few trade options. I've spoke about Naz Reid on here before. I'm a big fan of Naz Reid. I think that's possible. I've seen some people floating around Plumlee's name from
I've
the
heard Zach
Hornet.
Collins too. Someone suggested Zach
Yeah,
Collins.
I want to throw caution over that Zach Collins discussion just because,
Injuries,
he's
big
already
time.
dealing with Rob's injuries, and Zach Collins has
Yeah.
had a string of injuries himself. I'm not here to talk trades today, but what I will say is there are options available where you can use a TP and get a legitimate upgrade. And for me, that makes the most sense, right? Like at the minute, you're playing with a single big in this like Missoula offensive ball type rotation. It's not really working anymore. Teams have figured it out a little bit. Go back to that double big, do what you do best. But to do that, you need another reliable 4 or another reliable 5 off the bench, preferably both. I mean, you could put Grant at the
Both
4
are
and
good.
feel
Both
very
are good.
comfortable. So they're going to make a trade and they're going to try and upgrade that 5 position. There are options available. I'm completely fine with that. Vonleh in general, I'm just not that bothered about. I wasn't bothered when they picked him up. I didn't think he looked great in China last year. And I remember saying this on this show. It's all well and good, like being in China, but if you're not the standout best guy on the floor every game, you're probably not NBA material. And that's just how I felt about him coming into the season. I felt it about him when people were like, "Oh yeah, he can rebound, he can do this." I was like, "Yeah, he can," but like he's not. He can, but he's not. So no, he can't. Basically, I'm not like anti Noah Vonleh. I hope he finds a spot in the league somewhere or goes away and does something good elsewhere. But for Boston, yeah, I'm cool with this move. This move makes perfect sense to me. I'm fine with it. Absolutely, like, I'm cool. I don't know what else I can say. Thank you very much for your time, I
I
guess.
mean, thank you for your contributions. Wish you best of luck, Noah. I mean, it's tough. This is the tough side of the business when it comes down to it. Guy can't crack a rotation. He's not going to get minutes. Soon enough, they wonder why he's on the team. And
That's it, man. It's adios. I mean,
yeah,
the other thing I want to say as well is this isn't like Schroeder, where I was like literally bouncing off the walls with happiness that Schroeder had gone. Like,
oh man,
this isn't that, right? I'm
no,
just like, yeah, it's whatever, you know. Like, I'm
it's
cool.
tough.
It's whatever, dude. Like, what's next is kind of where I'm at now. I'm waiting for that Justin Jackson shoe to drop, and then I'm going to be sitting on tenterhooks, like waiting, man. Like, come on,
All right, what's
where's
the
the trade?
move?
Where's the
I wonder
trade?
if they bring up Samanich.
Now, I mean, he's been balling, but he didn't look great during like his time in preseason.
I agree with that. So I don't know. Maybe it was just a matter of getting his legs under
Stretch
him.
big. I mean, he looks like he's a young guy that's got something there. Like, there's definitely he can ball, he can play offense. The defense looked a little bit sketchy. I liked him, but I think out of all the guys in Maine at the moment, and I was quite low on him in terms of his ability to make an impact this season. I think JD Davison deserves a shot. And one of the things that I've said before is the Celtics really struggle because they don't have somebody that can create for themselves off the bounce, not at the guard position. JD Davison can do that because when he creates off the bounce, it's because he's bounced and he's Robert Williams in a smaller body. The dude can jump. Um, Give him a shot. If he's trash, put him back in the G League. Don't like that's what he's there for, right? So I wouldn't mind seeing like some changes there, but moving back to double big, making some moves to make that happen. I think that's probably the first step in the right direction. Getting rid of Vonleh or Vonleh away, as we're now going to call him, is perfectly fine.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
with it. I don't
you
think I
with it?
really got anything else to add.
No, I mean, dude, do you know what? Screw it. I want to talk a little, real quick, and I want to go into this in more depth in tomorrow's actual show, so I don't want
Okay,
to waste it here.
fire away.
This Malcolm Brogdon kind of the disdain for Malcolm Brogdon right now that I keep seeing on social media, where everyone's like, "Yo, it's time to trade Brogdon. It's an experiment that hasn't worked. How you feeling about that?" And don't get too deep into it because this is for tomorrow, but I just want to
Yeah,
kind of broach it a little bit.
I tweeted this out earlier because one of guys I follow online, AK, put it out. Um, my opinion is this: if it were just Brogdon having struggles, that would be one thing. But the entire team and most of the bench is struggling. So like I don't think it's just Brogdon. Like I don't think Brogdon is the issue here. I think his struggles are a symptom of a bigger problem. Like I think that's just overall what it is. Something isn't clicking. I don't know if it's the rotations, I don't know if it's the playmaking off of the bench, if he needs to have the ball in his hands more, if they need to stagger certain players differently, but something's not clicking. I don't know if they're just not optimizing him. He's had some struggles, but so has other key rotation guys like Grant, Derek White. Like we've seen a lot of guys shooting just like plummet. So I don't think it's fair really to like pick on him about it right now because he's certainly not the only one who's having, a slump right now. I don't think that's necessarily fair to him. And again, symptom of a bigger problem, in my opinion.
Okay, with that, we'll end this segment. We'll be back tomorrow with a full show, but we had to at least get something out in this Noah Vonleh trade. The Spurs and the Celtics are becoming very good friends. There's been a few moves. I like this kind of little connection. The Spurs do their business very professionally. They're one of the better organizations in the NBA. The fact that they have respect with the Celtics, or more importantly with Brad Stevens, goes a long way. It means a lot in terms of they just, real recognize real. So with that, hopefully you'll recognize we're real and you'll stick around for tomorrow's show. Till then, everybody have a great one. Peace.
Cheers.